Yeah, basically, you see, I am from the Indian Register of Shipping, which is the Indian Class Society. We are a member of IX, and we also a European Union recognized organization. We were founded in 1975 with a very, very modest start as a public limited company, not for profit. And over the last 40 years plus, we have grown to a size of about 13 million tons in classed vessels, the gross tonnage, and over 1900 ships. We basically, our focus is marine, though as a holding company we also have the industrial division, the certification division, two acquired companies which are in cryogenic repairs, and also we have a laboratory which is both testing physical, metallurgical, chemical, etc., etc. I think we've grown quite a bit, and our non-marine revenue is almost 40% of the total revenue. But as I said, that our main focus is marine and shipping. Yeah, it's quite a common question. If you see improvement of safety and improvement of the efforts for protecting the environment, basically, over the years, if you have seen, one thing is very important. I mean, the kind of environment you operate in, any business, and we are not talking specifically about shipping, you have to run a quality business, whether it is manufacturing, whether you're making products, whether you're in the service industry, unless you are able to provide a quality business, which basically ensures that whatever you're doing, you are a top quality organization in any field. I think that is what becomes your basic selling point, to the customer that you are targeting at. And I've always believed that for good quality, you need primarily, I think, good people, and also you need good systems, which is very important. I think once these are in place, then you need to focus on what really you want to get at, what are your target areas, where do you want to really market. And now if you have these ingredients in your organization, I think both with respect to safety and quality, you will be in a better position to achieve what you really want. You see, in shipping there is a saying that ships are as safe as men who man them, And by men I mean both genders, there is no differentiation between men and women, yeah. You find more and more even women coming into the field, but as compared to the aviation industry, I find it is still less. Maybe it's a tougher life, yeah. But I think people decide really how safe your ship is, how careful you're going to be about protecting the environment. The regulations today, be it your Marpol Annex 3, 4, 5, 6, be it the SOLAs, I think the ships are becoming much safer. If you see the accident analysis in the last about 10, 12 years, the major accidents, the numbers have reduced, And I think that is basically, it says that people are getting more safety conscious, people are getting more concerned about protecting the environment, And both the regulators as well as the stakeholders, like the ship owners, are working a lot towards both safety as well as protection of the environment. And I think one needs to also keep in mind that the safety culture, it's an ongoing process, that it has got to be continuously conveyed to the people who work in shipping. And to me, I think it is happening. Uh, the recent somewhat rise in the accidents, I think, is because of the new thing, the technological innovations. The technology is moving at quite a rapid pace. And I think there is a gap between the pace at which the technology is increasing and the pace at which the people who use that technology are getting used to that technology. And as long as that gap exists and does not get closed, I think there would be some risk to the ships which are being operated, which are highly or which are technologically intensive. And I think that is where people need to be a little more careful. And I think as a company, I always recommend that you should adopt technology at a pace which suits you. You can't be over ambitious, that you have a new technology without learning how to use it. You start using that technology and that could be, that could create problems. So I think that is what would be our advice to improve the culture of safety as well as environment protection. Uh, I have been in this field for a number of years, and while I am in the classification business for the last about 5-6 years, my major time in the industry has been in ship owning and operating ships. When I go back about, let's say, 15 years or 20 years, uh, I think there was a lack of safety culture. There was a lack of not only awareness, but even on the part of the owners, the management, that safety was expensive. I mean, why spend so much money on safety, environment protection? The rules were lax. The port state control inspections were a lot less stringent, and people thought they could get away with it. And hence, both in good markets and bad markets, people did not pay enough attention to safety. And also, a lot of people said that to be safe or to be over safe is quite expensive. So see how much is the minimum you can invest in safety. But over the years, I've seen, especially with the tightening regulations, the so-called rogues have been leashed in. And today there is no option but to operate a ship which is safe, a ship which is low on emissions. The penalties for not doing so can be very heavy, and I think most of the stakeholders in the industry today are getting a little more qualitative. The charters expect you to be more qualitative. They are getting a little more safe, and I would say a large number of the stakeholders in the industry are operating better ships, safer ships, ships which are more environment friendly. Yeah. This uh, primarily I'm a marine engineer by profession. Yeah. So fuels are something very familiar with which we are very familiar. We have used starting with IF 380s, IF 180, low sulfur fuels in your eco areas, 0.1% sulfur in EU areas, and today we are talking of 3.5% sulfur. From 1st January 2020, we are talking of 0.5% sulfur. I personally believe you need to be a little careful and prepare yourself to start using fuel 2020, 0.5% sulfur. But I personally believe that there is so much talk about fuel 2020, uh, that it is creating some unnecessary confusion in the minds of those who are going to use it. And to me, they seem to be a little more hyper about the whole thing. I mean, you have to just look at some very basic issues of the 0.5% sulfur. And that is that for the first time you're going to have a very, when you talk of 0.5% sulfur as compared to 3.5, you are going to have a lot of this distillate cutter fuel to bring the sulfur down, you see. So one thing, while the oil companies are confirming there will be no problem with the stability of the fuel, one needs to be a little careful, see how it goes. Secondly, you may have a slightly lower power with low sulfur fuel, where you need to assess that in a risk situation, when you are probably at close quarters, navigating in restricted waters, you have to be a little more cautious that your maximum power when needed could be less than what you normally got. So if you keep that in mind, probably you'll be a little better off. But I think by and large, availability has been confirmed by all oil companies. You will have as much oil as you need, 0.5% sulfur. The specifications, every refinery says will meet the ISO 8217. What is important is, as Indian Register, we are having a seminar in Bombay on the 26th of April, where we are getting all the stakeholders, the oil companies, the ship owners, the designers, the engine makers, the P&I clubs, the hull underwriters, to come under one roof and throw all their issues, all the doubts, and get those doubts cleared by various stakeholders. And I personally believe that if at all there are any issues, they would be only limited to those which happen whenever you have something new coming in. You start driving an automatic car, right? You start wondering, what to do, where's the clutch and where's the brake, yeah? But I don't think you will have any major issues with 2020. So I think that if the owners are careful, they understand some major intricacies of the new fuel, which are not really humongous, I think they will have no problem in using 2020. And personal view is that I think industry is ready to start using fuel 2020.